Ever feel like you're just drowning in information? You want the key stuff, the surprising bits, but wading through everything is just too much.
Yeah, like you need a shortcut to the core of something complex.
Exactly. Well, that's what we're doing today. We're taking a deep dive into something pretty heavy, actually. It's the intricate world of Soviet justice.
And it feels surprisingly relevant even now.
Yeah.
We're focusing on these administrative tribunals, the OSO, the special board, and the whole system of political courts around them.
Right, and we're drawing from a source that's packed with firsthand accounts and historical analysis. Really powerful stuff.
And our mission here really is to pull out the key insights. How could a legal system, supposedly about justice, get twisted into this bureaucratic machine?
A dehumanizing one at that.
Totally. Stripping away rights.
Yeah.
Due process. And we want to explore what that felt like for the people caught inside. The goal is for you, listening, to walk away with a deeper sense of, well, how fragile justice can be.
Okay, so let's dive in. We're starting right at the sharp end, the moment someone actually gets their sentence.
Yeah, and the source paints this picture that's just bizarrely mundane.
Right, this frisking box next to a BTI station, like a regular government office building, basically. It's empty.
And then there's this NKVD major, secret police behind a small table, and the description, patient boredom.
Patient boredom, it's chilling. He's handling these sentence papers like they're, fuel requisitions, office supply orders?
Exactly. The ordinariness is terrifying because the gravity, someone's life being changed forever is just completely erased by this bureaucratic routine.
So the author describes getting this carbon copy, an extract from an OSU decree, July 7th, 1945.
And the major just reads it out. Bored. Like a script.
Yeah.
8 years. For anti-Soviet propaganda and for an attempt to create an anti-Soviet organization.
And the author's reaction.
It's incredible. He says, my heart didn't give an extra half beat. He actually questions if this totally routine moment could be the turning point in his life.
It just shows how normalized it all became, even for the victims.
Absolutely. And that piece of paper, the dotted line dividing the accusations from the decree. It's such a stark symbol, isn't it?
A total disconnect. No explanation needed, apparently.
None. The major wasn't interested in clarifying anything, just pointed where to sign with this lint-covered pen. The whole thing was designed to be quick, impersonal.
Just process them through. So how did others react? Because people must have responded differently.
Oh, absolutely. The source gives some really stark examples. The author tries this weak appeal, but really, this is terrible. 8 years, what for? And even he knows it sounds false.
And the major just lets him write it down and moves on.
Yeah. Then there's G. Gueno, gets 25 years. He compares it to the old days, drums, crowds for a life sentence. Now, it feels like being on a list for a soap ration.
That comparison is brutal. Just another number.
And then you have defiance. Arnold Rappaport grabs the pen, writes, I protest categorically this terroristic, illegal sentence.
What?
The officer just lost it, tore up the paper. But the sentence, it stood. The protest meant nothing.
Utterly powerless.
But then, the flip side, almost absurd. Vera Cora, she's expecting 15 years, sees a typo, only 5.
No way!
Yes. She apparently laughed, this luminous laugh, and hurried to sign before they took it back. Can you imagine?
Delight at a typo that saves you 10 years in the Gulag.
Wow. And a Hungarian guy, Janos Rose, gets 10 years read out in Russian. No translation. He signs it, thinking it's just some form, waiting for a trial.
That never comes.
Never comes. Only later, in the camp, does he figure out what he actually signed.
Just sealed his fate without even knowing. The randomness is terrifying.
Okay.
A typo, a language barrier.
Exactly. And this leads to maybe the most unsettling part, the mood after sentencing.
What, you mean among the prisoners?
Yeah. The author says they got jollier and more relieved. There was loud chatter, laughter. They even laughed at this poor bookkeeper who'd apparently gone mad from the shock.
Laughter. Why?
Because it went smoothly. Because they still had this sliver of morning hope. Because they convinced themselves the sentences were just for form's sake. That an amnesty was coming.
So it's denial. Coping.
The source calls it cleansing, relieving laughter. Not sick, but a living defense for the salvation of the organism. A psychological shield.
Like Valentine, the prisoner saying, we're still young, we're gonna live. Working honestly, keeping quiet.
That naive hope. But the author starts seeing through it. He has this thought. If in order to live, it is necessary not to live, then what's it all for?
Ah, that's the shift. From hope to understanding the horror.
The brutal truth starting to dawn.
So how did a system like this, capable of creating that kind of brutal truth, even come about? It wasn't invented overnight, right?
Not at all. This idea of non-judicial power, administrative repression, it has deep roots in Russia, way before the revolution.
Like Catherine the Great.
Yeah, sentencing the journalist Novikov to 15 years on an OSO
Yeah.
basis, bypassing the courts. Tsars exiled people without trial all the time. Korolenko, for example.
Right, exiled twice. And even Vera Zasulich, after trying to assassinate someone, she fled administrative repression, not the courts.
Exactly. This tradition of the dotted line sentence, a decree without a trial, was already there.
But it sounds like it was maybe a bit looser back then, under the czars.
It was often lax
Yeah.
and indefinite, yeah. Could be the czar, governor. But it gained real scope in the 1920s with the Soviets. That's when you get the permanently operating triers, the troika.
Three-person panels.
Right. And initially the GPU, the state security, even published the names of some troika members. Gleb, Boki, Vol.
But then they stopped.
Then they stopped. It became secret. The mystery of the troika grew. It was explicitly not a court, and maybe even scarier because it was hidden, isolated.
The source uses that shilling analogy, the troika, as an OTK, like a quality control department.
Yeah, for the GPU. Designed to prevent any spoiled goods. So even if someone was technically innocent, couldn't be tried in court.
They could still get slapped with something.
Exactly. A -32 sentence barred from living in big cities. Or exile for a few years. Just to make sure they were always a marked man, a potential recidivist.
So it wasn't about what you did.
It shifted, explicitly, away from personal guilt towards social danger, what you represented. The belief was you could imprison an innocent person if they were socially hostile.
And let a guilty one go if they seemed socially friendly. It completely turns justice on its head.
Fundamentally.
Yeah.
And the OSO itself, this special board, represented three key bodies. The party's central committee, the MVD Internal Affairs, Police Security, and the chief prosecutor.
But the source mentions speculation that maybe they didn't even meet. It was just typists.
Yeah. Experienced typists composing extracts from non-existent records.
Yeah.
It's a horrifying thought, isn't it? Just paperwork processing lives.
And the sentences just got worse and worse over time.
Dramatically. Started at 3 years max, then 5, then the 10 ruble bills in 37, because that was a common bank bet.
25 years, rivet a quarter.
Right, from 48. And even execution by shooting during the war years. It was, as the source says, a hamburger machine.
Easy to run, no legal complexities, no codes.
Just efficient repression.
Yeah.
And to make it even more efficient, the OSO developed its own shorthand, these letter articles.
Right, the ASA, KRD, SVE.
ASA, anti-Soviet agitation, KRD, counter-revolutionary activity, SVE, socially harmful element, CHS, member of a family of a convicted person. Simple, easy to memorize, bypass the actual legal code.
And they didn't even call it a sentence.
No, it was an administrative penalty. Because that penalty could be 25 years, loss of titles, property, everything. No right to correspond.
And the advantages for the regime were huge.
Undeniable. 1, no appeal, nowhere to go, final.
2, speed. Just limited by typing speed, basically.
And 3, maybe the most practical and grim. No need for face-to-face confrontation. Save transport, save space and food in prisons. Send them straight to the camps after interrogation.
Then tell them their sentence much later.
Much later. We see real examples of this. Prisoners arriving at a place called Perer in 38, no idea why they're there or for how long. A clerk just looks them up on a list. SDE, 5 years. Moscow Volga Canal.
Just like that. Or the mass announcement on May 1st, 38. 10, 20 years handed out to lines of prisoners.
Or that train load going from Chelyabinsk to Sheets. They worked for months, unsentenced. Then, one freezing day, a lieutenant casually informs them, oh yeah, you got 8 years, you got 10, OSO penalty.
It's Kafkaesque, the complete disconnect. Which leads back to that question. If the OSO was so efficient, so perfect for the regime, why bother with formal courts at all?
Yeah, why use the horse car when there's a noiseless modern streetcar?
Yeah.
It seems weird.
But these political courts, special collegia, military tribunals, Supreme Courts, they kept going. And apparently they just followed the OSO's lead anyway.
Pretty much, yeah. Unanimously followed the path of the OSO. And one key feature, closed doors.
Despite the party's early talk about involving everyone in justice.
Total opposite in reality for political cases. The excuse was always fear that our enemies will find out.
Even though history showed open trials happened before without causing disaster, like Zelyabov or Vera Zasulich, who was acquitted by a jury.
Right. These closed sessions were super informal. No robes needed. Judges could roll up their sleeves. No public, no press. Just the interrogators bringing people in.
And you mentioned something truly disturbing. Defense lawyers who accuse their own clients.
Yeah, defense lawyers who accuse the defendant as an honest Soviet person. It completely flips the script on what defense is supposed to mean.
So closed doors was one thing. What else characterized these courts?
Predetermined verdicts. That was huge, often driven by administrative or even economic factors.
Like reducing sentences in the 20s because of unemployment, which then backfired in overcrowded prisons?
Exactly. Shows how far moved it was from actual justice. And then directives came down in a 1929 decree saying no sentences under 1 year. Judges always knew what was expected. Phone calls reinforced it.
So they basically knew the sentence beforehand.
Often, yeah. The source mentions sentences being typed out ahead of time with only the prisoner's name to be added later by hand.
Typed out ahead of time. And that Stovich case you mentioned.
Oh, yeah, 1942.
Yeah.
Kid accused of being recruited as a spy when he was 10. He cries out, "But I was only 10." And the judge just snaps, "Don't slander the Soviet intelligence service."
Case closed. Verdict predetermined.
Completely. And weirdly, this predetermination apparently offered moral relief to the judges. No worry about making a mistake if the decision's already made for you.
That's a twisted kind of comfort, like that Estonian case. Judge joking around, taking long lunches.
Yeah, seemed all humane and relaxed, left the prisoners waiting all night. Then in the morning, bang, 10 years each. Brisk, done, profound hypocrisy.
So closed doors, predetermined verdicts. What was the third characteristic?
Dialectics. Basically malleable law. The legal code wasn't fixed. It was encrusted with interpretations, directions, instructions. You could convict someone by analogy even if their action wasn't technically illegal.
Making things up as they went along.
Sort of. And using deliberately vague terms, like in that 1950 decree bringing back capital punishment terms like subversives, diversionists. Stalin apparently loved it that way, not to say all of it, just to hint.
Leaving everything up to the judge's interpretation, or rather the directives.
Exactly. The real judging came from directives 1937, 43, 45, 49 dictating sentences. No independent judiciary.
And acquittal was basically impossible.
Unthinkable. There was even a scandal when a proposed 1958 code omitted grounds for acquittal. A newspaper had to point out it gave the impression courts only bring in convictions.
And the reason? Purely pragmatic. Chillingly so.
Yeah, the economic argument. An acquittal means the informers, interrogators, prosecutors, guards, everyone worked to no purpose. Wasted resources.
Unbelievable. It just reinforces the machine, like that Chilpenov case you mentioned.
Classic example, 1941, Pavel Chilpen.
Yeah.
Accused by a jealous colleague and a scared comrade. He's patriotic, offers to die for the country.
Yeah.
Dismissed. 10 years plus loss of rights.
And the judges, just rubber stamps.
Depressingly faceless and emotionless rubber stamps. Sessions lasting maybe a minute under pressure. And they had this cruel trick.
The pause.
Yeah, delivering a death sentence, pausing,
Yeah.
watching the reaction, then adding, but taking into consideration the sincere repentance. Psychological torture.
And those messages scratched on waiting room walls. I got execution. I got 25.
Serving an educational purpose. Be
Yeah.
scared, bow down, don't think you can change anything.
And defiance was crushed instantly. Shout, you are fascists.
Could turn 10 years into execution.
Yeah.
And if you try to take back a confession you gave under torture, immediate recess, beating, come back and confess again, swift, brutal.
But there was that one case. Karetnikov, he showed his broken collarbone.
Alexander Karetnikov, yeah.
Yeah.
Showed the prosecutor proof of torture right before his military collegium session. Now, the collegium, even the Supreme Court body, couldn't just acquit him. That meant release.
So what do?
Delivered no verdict at all. Sent him back to prison, let him get treated, and then an OSO gave him 8 years.
So even the highest court was ultimately trumped by the OSO. It shows where the real power lay.
Absolutely. The OSO had the final flexible say. It reminds me of that poet, Jimbo.
What did he say?
A partial court is worse than banditry judges are enemies.
Yeah.
There sleeps the law.
Yeah.
The citizen's neck lies stretched out, quiet and without defense.
Wow. And the author's final twist on the old proverb.
Yeah, not don't fear the law, fear the judge.
Yeah.
But the reverse. Don't fear the judge, fear the law. Meaning, fear that kind of law, the Abakumov kind of law, a law as pure terror.
So as we wrap this up, where does that leave us? The system seems impenetrable.
Well, the author recounts this fascinating experience from 1963. He's facing 70 officials from the military collegium, the same body that sentenced Karetnikov.
What was that like?
They claimed, those others, the real executioners, were gone, retired, removed. Some even tried under Khrushchev, apparently threatening their accusers. Today you try us, tomorrow we'll try you.
Chilling. Did they show any remorse?
Quite the opposite in some ways. He mentions judges at conferences bragging about not applying mitigating circumstances, Article 51, so they could give 25 years instead of 10.
Pride and severity.
And
Yeah.
total subservience. A judge sends a case back wanting more evidence, basically, wanting the accused tortured more, and he gets exiled for implying distrust in our organs. Prosecutors bow to them, too.
It really makes you wonder, the chicken or the egg? Does the system create people like that, or do people like that create the system?
That's the fundamental question, isn't it? But the author saw something else, too. A glimmer.
What was that?
These same judges, after reading Solzhenitsyn's One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich, their consciences were stirred. They admitted the book was actually decidedly on the bright side and seemed eager for reform.
So a crack in the facade, the
Right.
first tiny droplet of truth, as he calls it.
Exactly. Which leads to his final powerful thought.
Go on.
He asks, if the first tiny droplet of truth has exploded like a psychological bomb, what then will happen in our country when whole waterfalls of truth burst forth?
And they will burst forth. It has to happen. Wow.
A really provocative end.
It absolutely is. And that really brings our deep dive to a close. We've seen how a system meant for justice can be utterly twisted into, well, a machine for oppression.
It's sobering, definitely. Seeing the human cost, the mechanisms of control.
So for you listening, as you process all this, the dotted line, the hamburger machine, maybe take a moment.
Yeah, consider. Are there systems, structures, maybe even ways of thinking in our world today that perhaps subtly echo this? Where process or efficiency starts to overshadow basic justice and human dignity.
It's a heavy thought, but an important one. We hope this encourages you to stay curious, keep questioning, and always value transparency and accountability wherever power lies.
Because true justice depends on it. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.